There's a caravan of migrants. I'm just going to read briefly from the Washington Post to set this properly. There's a caravan of migrants from Central America grew to about 5,000 Sunday, a massive group stretching along the city's main highway for more than a half mile. They spoke in different accents, fleeing different disasters, joblessness in parts of Honduras, a mounting political crisis in Nicaragua, cities in Guatemala where they are sure their children would be languished as they had. And then there were the deportees. Many of the migrants had previously lived in the United States for years or even decades, joining the caravan to reunite with their children or resume their old jobs. They were undeterred by the American authorities who had apprehended them, or the U.S. president who promised to keep them out. Some of them had returned voluntarily to their homes long ago, but eventually determined that there was nothing there for them. Now they were traversing Mexico while President Trump tweeted about their journey, demanding that the migrants apply for asylum in Mexico before continuing north. It's time for me to get back to the United States. It's the country where I live, where I can live my life, unlike Guatemala, said Joe Briez, 36, who spent most of his childhood and teenage years in Los Angeles, attending kindergarten through high school there. This is a group of people who would almost certainly meet any fair legal definition of asylum and have already been victims of very draconian laws that were actually signed into the 90s about if you have come here and you're a resident, you committed one felony, you're gone. So even the rapper Shine was big in the late 90s. He was involved in Bad Boy after Biggie's immigrated when he was a very small child from Belize. He was involved in an incident at a club with Puff Daddy and Jennifer Lopez, and he did a jail term, and then he was gone. Went to Belize. Charles Ogletree took his case, and he didn't win it. And I say that not because I'm particularly concerned about Shine,
Free Shine,
but sure, free Shine, or I think he's become an Orthodox Jew, so I actually don't know his current name. But at any rate, the point being is that even someone who had a lot of some real resource and privilege behind them were still, at the effect of this policy. So these are people who are profoundly contributing members of society. They shouldn't have to be contributing in order to justify basic human recognition, but they are. Like, at some point, as much as I resist these arguments, you are going to have to hit some people back with, like, you know what? All these immigrants that you're constantly bitching about, they feed way more into the system than they take, and you benefit from them. So let's be real here. And this caravan, what should be an ethical call for all of us, and AMLO has already promised that he's not going to play our game at the Mexico-Guatemala border. He's going to humanize that border. So we'll see what he does when he assumes the presidency of Mexico. But he's like, I'm not doing the Trump's dirty work on this. Fuck that. Louie Gohmert is going to, as always, in his just depraved way, he'll get you the essence. This is the Republican message for the midterms and the Trump reelect.
One more question is, I know you favor the wall. I don't know what effect that would have on a caravan like this, but let's get that in a moment. Some of the side reporting we're getting is that there's some political unrest in Honduras that initiated the caravan. I don't know what information you have. Others suggest that they're doing a little bit of this for the TV cameras. They get in cars and they drive a little bit. Yeah. And then when the cameras come out, they walk. I don't know how much is true and how much is not. What can you clarify, sir?
So I just want to stop there. He doesn't know how much of those smears were true or not, but he would like to repeat them for the audience.
But he would like to repeat them for the audience and then cue up one of the most dangerous, unhinged, demented, ill-informed, bigoted people in American politics to tee off on it.
Can you clarify, sir?
Well, there supposedly were some political factors in this getting started, but Bill, once it got started, it takes an inertia of its own, and there is money coming, and I'm sure there's some from the United States going to help this caravan along, but it's building of its own momentum, and it's going to take a very strong president, which we have, to stop it. And we've got to make clear to Mexico, they're not coming in. We're closing the border, even to you.
How do you then think,
you disperse
how do you, for those who support the caravan, how do they believe the images support their cause within our own country, 15 days from an election?
Well, I can't help but think that the Democrats, perhaps Soros, others may be funding this, thinking it's going to help them, but they're going to be surprised because the president, his number one thing was, we're going to build a wall, we're going to stop illegal immigration, and he's going to have a chance to show that he actually means what he says,
so,
which indicates he's not a real politician.
So if we're going to do Alex Jones, this is the best that a racist white identity party could hope for in terms of ginning up paranoia and nonsense to get people to vote in the midterms. The reason that these people might not be anticipating the media response hits from their caravan is because they're fleeing things like political repression, cartel violence, and complete human misery. And they are pushed to such an extreme where they're actually trying to get into this country that is presided over right now by these cruel maniacs. So when you're in that life condition, you don't have time to assess how this is going to work in a 4 p.m. hit on Fox News. Now, the next part we're going to play, this is also from Fox. Is this 6 or 7?
Let's go to 7.
Okay.
It's the one place you can look for some decency on Fox is the independent voters.
Right, and I think this is a really important thing here. It's very important to remember in these conversations that you on a level of basic decency, there's actually a lot of people you can reach. And again, they might not be the most woke on everything. They might not use the right words. They might not get everything. Blah, 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 blah. Okay? And sometimes that's really important. Sometimes that isn't. But actually, we should have more confidence that a lot of Americans don't want to actually, in another example, define transgender human beings out of existence because maybe they're not well versed in gender theory, but they're not cruel maniacs. And a lot of Americans are going to say, oh, a cartel threatened to kill your family if you stayed on a block? That actually is like the reality that the president's always lying and fear-mongering about. I sure wouldn't want to live in those conditions. Why can't we bring those people over here? Especially if they already lived here for a long time. I don't see have any problem with that because I'm a normal, well-adjusted human. And here is what it's like when a normal, well-adjusted human sentiment comes across on Fox News. It's very weird, obviously.
There's a humanitarian crisis taking place in Central America, and yet this issue gets turned into a complete political football. There's very little honest discussion about what's actually happening. It gets turned into talking points.
And Aaron.
Yeah, treating this as an invasion is a bad idea, and it's going to end horribly if it is treated such as that way. So I think people have to realize, yeah, these are human beings coming here, and there needs to be a real solution offered in dealing with it.
Sure, but the backdrop is the midterms, and so it all becomes political. Let's see what happens.
Sure, but we're immoral sociopaths here, and I'm concerned that maybe a few members of our viewing audience might have actually had their conscience aroused for a second. So
can we keep this about Republicans winning and losing? Please?
Yeah, please. Human beings? Could you cite a poll number, please? Do you want to play this last one?
Sure. Okay,
let's just finish the trifecta. This is how the prime Republican network is spinning this. And this is how specific it gets. And, you know, of course, this is funny because it's wrong. And this is non-woke. This is back to belligerent, stupid Brian Kilmeade.
I understand this New Mexican government is trying to do more and the president praised them. However, can you imagine a scenario?
There isn't a New Mexican government yet. Go ahead.
Imagine a scenario where they walked right through America to Canada. We would never allow that. That wouldn't be possible. But right now, what they're doing is en route to coming here, claiming asylum. Then, thanks to the Flores Amendment, they got to get their 20 days in detainment only. And then we got to give them ankle bracelets and let them loose. 90% of them cut the bracelets off. We never see them again. What does it say to everybody waiting in line, paying the fees through our normal processes? It says they're being played as fools for doing it the right way.
Well, it says to people that were waiting in line was that they could have their children kidnapped from them and be separated from their families. That actually happened to people that were waiting in line.
And his claim about the 90% of them cut the ankle bracelets off is exactly the inverse of the truth, which is that the ankle bracelets lead to about a 99% compliance rate.
So it's even more than an inverse of the truth. It's like 90% wrong plus 9.
So Kilmeade, you're short, and get sung by Jimmy Kimmel again, please.
Right. And like step on a jellyfish or some shit while you're on the beach contemplating your next history book, you fucking idiot.